You don't mind being around people, but the moment you feel noticed, something shifts. Your posture changes, your thoughts tighten. You become aware of yourself. Not naturally aware, but sharply aware, like you're being watched. And suddenly, you're not just existing anymore, you're performing. So the question is, why does being seen feel like something you need to manage? Problem deep dive. It shows up in small moments. Someone looks at you for a second too long. You wonder what they're thinking. You walk into a room. You feel people noticing you even if they're not. You become aware of your movements, your expression, your voice. And instead of just being there, you start adjusting subtly, constantly. You speak differently. You hold yourself differently. You filter what you say. And afterward, you replay it. Did you sound awkward? Did you say too much? Did you come across the wrong way? It's not just social anxiety. It's something quieter, a discomfort with being defined in real time. Because once someone perceives you, you can't fully control how you exist in their mind. And that lack of control feels unsettling. So instead of relaxing into presence, you monitor yourself carefully. But this leads to something exhausting. You're not just interacting with people, you're interacting with how you imagine they see you. And that's where the tension builds. Because now, you're managing two realities at once. But why does your brain do this? Why does being seen turn into something to regulate? Reframe. You don't hate being perceived. You hate losing control over how you're perceived. Because when you're alone, your identity feels flexible, private, unfixed. But the moment someone observes you, that identity starts to feel solid, defined. And your brain becomes aware that it can't fully control that definition. So it compensates by monitoring, adjusting, refining. Not because you're fake, but because your brain is trying to maintain a coherent version of you in real time. This isn't weakness, it's an adaptive response, a way of managing social uncertainty. But the cost is high, because the more you monitor yourself, the less natural you feel. So the deeper question becomes, what exactly is your brain trying to protect when you're being seen? Psychological mechanism. To understand this, you need to look at how the brain processes self-awareness. When you're alone, your awareness is internal. You experience yourself directly. But when you feel observed, your brain activates something called self-referential processing. This involves the default mode network, which constructs your sense of identity. At the same time, your brain simulates other people's perspectives. This is linked to the medial prefrontal cortex. So instead of just being yourself, you start modeling how others might see you. This creates a loop. You imagine their perception, react to it, adjust, repeat. Now add one more layer, uncertainty. You can't fully know what others think, so your brain fills in the gaps, often with cautious or negative assumptions, because it's trying to avoid social risk. Here's the mental model. Imagine you're on a stage, but instead of performing for an audience, you're also watching yourself perform through their eyes. You're both the actor and the observer. And that split attention creates tension. Because you're no longer fully present, you're divided. Part of you is living the moment, the other part is evaluating it, continuously. And that's what makes being perceived feel uncomfortable. Not the attention itself, but the internal loop it creates. So the real question becomes, how do you stay present when your mind keeps pulling you into observation? Practical framework. You don't eliminate self-awareness. You change how your brain relates to being seen. 1. Shift from being seen to seeing. Right now, your focus is on yourself, how you appear, how you're coming across, what to do. Gently redirect attention outward. Notice the environment, the other person, the moment. Why it works. This reduces self-referential processing and quiets the default mode network. Your brain becomes less focused on self-evaluation. Real-life example. Instead of thinking, how do I look right now? You think, what is this person actually saying? Your attention shifts. 2. Accept that perception is uncontrollable. Part of the tension comes from trying to manage how you're seen. What to do? Remind yourself, I cannot fully control how I am perceived. Why it works. This reduces cognitive load and releases the need for constant adjustment. The brain stops chasing an impossible goal. Real-life example. You say something slightly awkward. Instead of correcting it internally, you let it pass. You allow the moment to exist as it is. 3. Reduce post-interaction replay. The loop doesn't end when the moment ends. Your brain keeps analyzing. What to do? Limit how long you replay interactions. Set a boundary. Why it works. This interrupts rumination cycles and prevents reinforcement of self-evaluation patterns. Real-life example. After a conversation, you notice the urge to replay. You allow a brief reflection, then redirect your attention. The loop weakens over time. 4. Practice imperfect presence. You're trying to appear consistent, controlled, polished. What to do? Allow small imperfections in how you show up. Why it works. This reduces performance pressure and desensitizes the brain to perceived judgment. Your nervous system learns that imperfection is safe. Real-life example. You pause mid-sentence. You lose your train of thought. Instead of correcting it quickly, you let it happen. Nothing breaks. 5. Reconnect with internal experience. When you're perceived, you disconnect from yourself. What to do? Briefly check in with your internal state, your breath, your body. Why it works. This anchors attention in present moment awareness and reduces external monitoring. It stabilizes your sense of self. Real-life example. In a social moment, you notice tension. You take a quiet breath, you feel your body, and you return more grounded. Integration. At its core, this isn't about people. It's about attention. Where your attention goes shapes your experience. When it turns inward, you start evaluating. When it turns outward, you start engaging. And when it splits between both, you feel tension, because you're trying to live and observe at the same time. But once you understand that, you gain something subtle, the ability to shift. Not perfectly, but intentionally. And that shift changes how being perceived feels. Quiet, empowering close. You don't have to disappear to feel comfortable. You don't have to become invisible. Because the discomfort you feel isn't about others seeing you. It's about how your mind responds when they do. And that response can change. Not by forcing confidence, not by controlling every detail, but by loosening the need to manage what can't be fully controlled. Because the truth is, you were never meant to watch yourself this closely. You were meant to experience things as they happen. And maybe that's the quiet shift, not trying to perfect how you appear, but allowing yourself to exist